Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee out here on my daily walk. It's been my routine since I've been sick. And there is something that took place just recently here in my family that I wanted to elaborate on. And it goes on sort of the line of something you hear on preparedness channels all the time. And it's basically move out to the country. Move out to the country and you're going to survive SHTF. And I'm here to tell you, if you think that moving out to the country is going to save you in a really big SHTF, you might want to check that opinion and temper your enthusiasm a certain amount, because there are a lot of problems out here in the country. And the old timers knew it. I mean, if the country solved all problems, every pioneer that went west would have thrived, and that's not the case. A lot of them died. And they rolled the dice at that particular point in time, and it's still rolling the dice today, moving out in the country. Now, the thing with the country is you're at the end of the supply line. Where do you think that supplies are going to be taken first if something bad happens? They're not going to come out here. They're going to go to the wealthy suburbs down in Detroit. They're going to go to where the money is. We are at the end of the line out here. We're an afterthought. And that goes with pretty much everything. Go into any small rural community, see how many stores they have, see how many services they have. And this goes back to a comment I got. I don't even remember what video it was on. A long time ago when I first started my channel, I mentioned something like this. I said, hey, the country can't support all these people coming out here. We don't have the infrastructure. And I had somebody comment back, move out to the country. The infrastructure will catch up. When has a municipal infrastructure ever caught up or helped out the needs of the people who lived in that area, whether it's roads or take water down in Flint? You don't think that if you think the municipal infrastructure is going to catch up, take a drive down Dort Highway down in Flint. You're going to learn real quick that the infrastructure isn't going to catch up. Municipalities are there to make money and build new city halls. They're not there to help you. And that is probably one of the biggest comments, if not the biggest comment, that I disagreed with on my channel over all these years. The old timers knew that they were at the end of the supply line. They didn't bust their ass from daylight till dark because they wanted to. They knew that's what they needed to do to survive, because nobody was coming to help them. They had to help themselves. Now, granted, helping yourself might be slightly easier out in the country than it is in the city. However, there's a lot more services in larger areas than there is out here in the country. The big one that everybody talks about is, how can I say this? Medical is huge now in the preparedness thing. Everybody's running around with IFAKs and stuff and tourniquets now that wasn't the case in the prepper sphere back 20 years ago. And a lot of that has to do with marketing. But think about it now. If let's say you are in a gunfight with your buddy, and for some reason he gets shot, you don't, you patch him up, you pack all his holes, you put a tourniquet on him, and the scene is safe enough where the local ambulance can show up and haul you over to the local hospital where they stabilize you. Now, the old timers, I've said this before in videos, the old timers always said, we don't have hospitals out here in the country. We have first aid stations. What do you think is the first thing that they're going to do when they see a trauma like that at one of the first aid station hospitals that we have out here? They're going to load you onto an ambulance or a helicopter, and they're going to fly you into a big city where a surgeon can patch you up. There's no trauma surgeons out here in the country. Okay. And pretty much everybody, the fantasy is that everybody's going to get into some kind of gunfight when SHTF happens. Without a support network, that gunshot that you got is going to be fatal. Plain and simple. The only place that you're going to get the medical attention is in the city. Like I said, I found this out firsthand myself just recently here. If you're just new to, my channel and all. We had an area around here that when I was a kid, it was a slum. Plain and simple. It was a slum. If you wanted to go buy drugs when I was in high school, that's where you went. There was an apartment complex out there. That's just where you went. Everybody knew it. Till about 5-6 years ago, rich people from the city started moving up here and started buying places up there because it was close to the water. It was close to the marsh, actually. And they started pumping money into it and rebuilding that and, put up big houses and rebuild everything that was out there. It's kind of become an enclave for people coming up here from the city. If SHTF happens, where do you think that people are going to go that have ill intent? They're going to go where the money is. They're not going to come to my house. That's an old ramshackle house where, there's somebody always there and there's somebody always at all my neighbors' houses. They're not going to come there. They're going to go to these places that somebody comes to half a dozen times a year that's big and fancy and whatever. And let me give you another example of this. I worked with a guy years ago, and after I left that job, I ran into him about 10 years later, and man, he was just having a hell of a time with people breaking into his house out here in the country, right, where everybody knows everybody and it's all Norman Rockwell. People were breaking into his place. I said to him, what's your place look like? Oh, I keep my place up. It looks nice. I got this, I got that, I got a big pole barn, I got all this stuff. I said, dude, you look like you have something. That's why people are breaking into your house. Now, I'm not saying, have your place look like a dump all the time. But if you look like you got money, that's where people are going to go that don't know no better when they start looking for stuff. I read an article about Katrina and the well-to-do gated houses in New Orleans when Katrina went through were the first places that got burnt to the ground and looted. Money, there's a thing with American preppers in particular that money somehow is going to save you if SHTF happens. And I don't believe that. When something bad happens, just because you bought something and you checked it off a list that you had, that's not going to save you. It's not going to save you. Throwing money at a problem doesn't work. Look at Iraq. Look at Afghanistan. How many billions of dollars has the United States thrown down those holes over the years? And now we're getting embroiled in another one where we're throwing money down a hole. Turf wars. And turf wars is another thing. Maccabeus Everyday Survival did a video on this a while back. And I believe the context that he used was firewood. People fighting over resources. You're going to see that. You're going to see that more and more. And if you just moved out to the country and you don't know anybody, you're not going to be fitting in real quick. That's the advantage of where I live. I've lived here my whole life. I know the good people. I know the bad people. You're not going to know that for maybe decades once you move into an area, who the good people are, who the bad people are. You're going to have to figure that out through trial and error. That doesn't happen overnight. You're going to have to experience where you live so you can answer those questions, because you could get, if you just moved into an area, you could be taken advantage of by a whole host of people that have ill intent. Not everybody, like I said, is Norman Rockwell out here in the country. There are bad people out here, and not everybody's bad, and you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But the whole idea that you move out to the country and everything is going to be cool and kosher and that there is no problems out here, that's just naive. Now, getting to the thing that spurred this whole video on, I have adult children, and like most adult children, they want to go out, they want to have a good time, they want to socialize. It's part of, being in your 20s and your 30s. You want to go out, you want to have a good time with your friends, and you want to make memories, right? That's not quite so easy out here in the country like it used to be. There's a lot of drugs out here. There's a lot of problems like that weren't when I was in school. It was beer and it was alcohol. It's gotten a lot harder now out here in the country. And my adult children came home from the doctor's office, a regular doctor's appointment, and the doctor's office said, "You're the right demographic and you're the right age. We want you to take some of this." This is Narcan. This is what they give for overdoses. They gave this to my adult children, not because they asked for it, but because that they were the right age group. And this is what warms my heart about my children. They said, "Dad, we want to help people. We don't want to be standing around while something bad is happening if we got the ability to affect change on that situation." And that warmed my heart as a father. And I'm like, holy shit, some of this prepping stuff that I've preached my entire life to my kids, that's starting to take hold. And they said, "Dad, we don't use that stuff. But you know what? There's a damn good chance that we might be around somebody that has. And they might need help." So they were actually trained and told exactly what to do by the doctor's office and how to administer that to somebody that's having an overdose. That's the country in 2023. That's the reality. Okay, it's not Norman Rockwell out here. There's problems out here. And I mean, and a lot of people will have a place, like in Michigan, it's up north. Everybody's got a place up north, right, where they can go to if something bad happens. And I talked to some people up in Munising and stuff, and Marquette and some of the towns up there. They said during the pandemic, they had people from Chicago and Milwaukee and Detroit just flocking up there. And they said all it did was cause a bunch of problems up there for those people. And then all those people up there got sick because everybody brought it up to them. And they said it was actually so bad, a lot of the businesses basically had to shut down because the people up there were just sick or so overwhelmed by the amount of people that were coming up there, they couldn't handle it. The infrastructure couldn't handle it, like I said before. And another thing is if you don't live at the place where you want your retreat to be, it's going to be a target for theft, plain and simple. Ask anybody that's got a cabin up north in northern Michigan for any length of time, ask them how many times it's been broken into, because I'll guarantee you that it's been broken into at least once. Pretty much everybody that I know that has a cabin up north at some point or another, it's been broken into. I know people that have built just little shacks out in the middle of the woods on property up there so they could go hunting and stuff, and they were literally demolished within 6 months. Because that's just how people are, and that's how things are out in the country. It's not Norman Rockwell out here. And I thought it was time that I did a video to address this sort of head on. Living in the country, just like in the pioneer days, moving out west and trying to make something of yourself is going to be a roll of the dice. It's going to be a roll of the dice on your skills, on your attitude, how you interact with people. I had a guy that I bear hunted with years ago up in the UP, and I asked him about it. I said, what with all these people moving up here to the UP? And he said, you know what, we don't have problems with people moving up here to the UP because they like the culture and they want to live the culture. But he said, what we have a problem with is people moving up here and wanting to change the culture. So if you're moving into an area, you need to assimilate into that culture and not think that you're going to change that culture. That's what breeds animosity, and that's what breeds problems down the road. Anyway, I thought it was something worth mentioning, and I thought it was a worthy preparedness topic because it's brought up so much. Anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. I hope you guys got a little information and a little entertainment out of this video and something to think about as always. You guys take care.